Hey friends, it's Heather with Running with Scissors, and today in this tutorial we are going to learn how to Mod Podge paper onto our wood cutouts. Some of our projects lately have included paper as a media instead of paint. We like to see a combination of both the paint and the scrapbook paper. It gives it a different look, and it also gives you a lot more options for a patterned background. So to teach you how to do this, I'm just going to use this simple bunny pattern, this bunny piece of wood. Now you'll get all different kinds of shapes and projects that you can incorporate this with, but we had these extra bunnies in the studio, so I thought that I would use these to demonstrate the method. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to find the front of our shape, and that's really important because while this bunny is mirror image side to side, not all shapes are. So this is the front of my bunny. This is the back. Now on laser pieces, sometimes it's hard to tell. It depends how the laser was running that day. But on this particular ones, you can see some of the burned marks along the edges where the laser was firing a little bit harder at that point to cut through the wood. So I know that this is the back. Now some of your pieces are going to be self-explanatory. What is the front and what is the back? All right, so we just want to make sure that we have the front side of the piece. We're going to take our paper. Today I'm using this large dot paper, and we're going to lay it on the top face up of the front side of our shape, okay? Just like that. And then we're going to pick up both pieces and flip them over. Now alternately, you could just flip the piece of paper over so the print side is down, and then take the front of your shape and flip that so the front side is down. I am going to line the bottom of the bunny up with the straight edge of the paper. Now this bunny is just a shape. It's not going into a slot of any kind. Some of you will have shapes that will sit, or you'll have wood pieces that will sit in a base, and they'll have an edge at the bottom that actually goes into the stand. Now, if that's the case, you do not want to put your paper all the way down to the bottom because that extra thickness of the paper is going to make it difficult for that shape to slide into the stand. So if that's the case, just raise your paper up just slightly above that bottom edge, about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. You can also test it out ahead of time by sliding your shape into the stand and then drawing a mark across the bottom of your shape where the top of the stand starts, okay? So for right now, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to line my shape up to the very bottom of my paper. And I'm going to slide it all the way over to one edge because I don't want to waste paper. So I'm sliding it over as close as I can and still have some room to trace. I'm going to take a pencil or a pen. I'm just using an ink pen. And I'm going to trace my shape now onto the back side of my paper. I am angling my pen in, so I'm getting as close to the shape as I can. I'm not very far away from it. I'm as close as the point of my pen or my pencil will get to the edge of the wood. Okay, and there is my shape. Now I'm going to take a pair of scissors, and I'm going to cut this shape out. You can't cut like you're a kindergartner. You gotta cut pretty nice cuts and pretty close to the line. I'm going to cut just inside the ink line though, because remember, I got as close as I possibly could, but because I can't get all the way up to the edge, I'm gonna have a little bit of an overhang of the paper off the wood if I don't make sure that I cut just inside of that ink line. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to begin my cut. I'm going to cut nice and slow because I don't want jagged edges. I want nice, rounded, perfectly shaped edges. And you can see that I am cutting the ink line off of the paper. All right, so that's not on my shape. Now I'm going to speed this video up because you don't need to see me cut all of this out and waste your time with that. Okay, here you can see that my bunny shape is all cut out. This is the back side of the paper. So I'm going to take my wood cutout and my bunny paper and flip them around, and then just make sure that I don't have any excess paper that I need to trim out. This is pretty good. You can see there's a slight overhang right there, but we are, let's see, let me show you that slight overhang. You see that? But that's okay because we will take care of that at the very end. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna set our paper aside, and making sure that we have the front side of our shape again, we are going to take a foam brush and some Mod Podge. Or you can also use a white wedge, or you can use a regular paintbrush to put your Mod Podge on. But in your kits, we give you a foam brush. Now, overall, you want a really thin coat. However, if you put a very thin coat on to begin with, it will dry before you get the entire thing covered. So I tend to just come in and get a bunch of Mod Podge on there so I have some puddles to work with. That way nothing is drying up before I'm having time to cover the entire shape. Now notice that we did put the Mod Podge onto the wood. You never want to put the Mod Podge onto the paper because all it's going to do is saturate your paper and wrinkle it all up. All right, so we always put it on the wood shape. Now that I've got a lot of Mod Podge on this bunny and I've got it spread around, I'm going to spread it around, making sure I go all the way to the edges of the cutout, making sure I get all those edges, and then I'm getting rid of the excess Mod Podge at the same time. I do not want puddles. I don't want streaks. I just want a nice thin layer of Mod Podge over the whole entire thing. This does get a little bit messy on your fingers, but it's just basically a glue, so it will come off. So now that I've got it covered edge to edge, I'm just gonna go back and I'm gonna swipe it all back down and just make sure I have no large lines and no puddles. Okay, just like that. Let me see if I can tip this so you can see. And there's no large puddles, there's no lines. And now I'm going to take my paper. Make sure your fingers are clean because you don't want to get Mod Podge on your paper. And I'm going to lay my paper onto my wood shape. And I'm going to line it up. It will move around a little bit. So just squish it into place, move it into place, slide it into place. And then I'm going to start smoothing it down. Now this is the most important part here, guys. You have to make sure that you are constantly smoothing this paper down all along the edges for about a minute, maybe a little bit longer, because you want to make sure that you are making that paper stick down before that Mod Podge dries. So I just continuously push the paper down, paying extra careful attention to the edges. And now you can see my paper overhang is bending around the sides as I smooth it down, and that's perfectly fine. You can see that right here on this edge. And that's okay. We're going to take care of that in just a minute. Be patient with this part. As long as you continue to smooth this down while that Mod Podge sets up, you won't have wrinkles in your paper. So this is an important part. Okay, I'm gonna set this aside to dry, but earlier I did another bunny that has been allowed to dry for a while, so we can keep moving for the sake of time on this video. So now this one has had plenty of time. It's all set up and dry, And you can see like on this piece right here where my paper went over a little bit. Can you see that? Yep. So here's what we do to take care of that. You get an emery board in your kit. They might not all look like this, but it's just an emery board, a fingernail file if you will. And you can also use sandpaper or a sanding block. If you're in the studio, we use sanding blocks. And we're just going to file the edges of this paper. So I take the emery board and I start from the top and I pull down. I'm using the edge of the wood cutout as the ledge to which I'm forcing my paper to fold over. And then that emery board just cuts or scrapes the excess paper off. See that? See how perfect that is? And then you're just going to do that all the way around. Now I'm not going to do this whole entire bunny because it will take too long with the video, but I just wanted to show you how we do that. All right, now the last thing that you can do to your wood cutout is you can distress, antique, or just put some color to the edges. Let me get this filed off here. Now you could file this paper even more on top of the paper to make the paper look distressed if you would like. That's up to you. Some people like to do that. Let me do a little bit of that. All right, so this edge is nice and cut off right to the edge of the wood. Now, if you want to distress the paper a little bit, you can bring your emery board back up onto the paper a little more and just sand that. And then that will reveal the core, the white part of the paper. See how I'm scraping off that purple there, that purple line, and revealing more of the core to the paper. You can do that all the way around as well. It depends what kind of look you want. Now, quite often what I will do is I will take a little tiny bit of paint on a sponge and then I will get the rest off of it. I just want a very, very little paint on it. And then I will drag my sponge from the edge out just to put some color on to the edges of my cutout and my scrapbook paper. Now there's very, very little paint on the sponge and I'm having to push quite hard, but I like the look that this method gives very much. So that's what that will look like. And you can do that with any color paint. If you wanted to do like a brown or a black, it would give it more of an aged look or a distressed look. Okay. All right, so that is how we put paper on a wood piece to give a different media addition to our projects. All right, if you guys have any questions on this, just send us a message on Facebook or to our email, and we appreciate you guys. Hope this video helps you. Thanks.